Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be sharing my personal experience of applying for a Schengen visa for Switzerland as a UK BRP holder. Before we dive in, I want to make it clear that I am not a visa expert or an immigration consultant. This guide is based on my own experience and is meant to help you understand the process and avoid common mistakes. We'll cover everything from understanding the Schengen visa and eligibility criteria to gathering the required documents, the application steps, and some useful tips for success. So, let's get started. A Schengen visa is basically your ticket to travel within the Schengen area for up to 90 days within a 180-day period. What's great about it is that you can move freely between 27 European countries that are part of the Schengen Agreement, and you don't need separate visas for each country. It's super convenient if you're planning to hop from one country to another. The Schengen area is like a big travel zone where all these countries have agreed to abolish passport control at their mutual borders. To get more detailed information about the entry requirements for non-EU nationals, you can visit www.schengenvisainfo.com. Once you're on the site, scroll down to find the section titled Entry Requirements for Non-EU Nationals. Here, you'll find important information like the need for a valid passport, which must be issued within the previous 10 years, and valid for at least 3 months after the date you intend to leave the EU. If you're from a country that requires a visa, you'll also need to obtain a Schengen visa. So, when I applied for my Swiss Schengen visa, my UK BRP was set to expire in about 6 months. I was initially worried that this might be an issue, but here's the thing. You can still apply for a Schengen visa even if your BRP is expiring soon. The key rule to remember is that your UK visa or BRP needs to be valid for at least 3 months after your planned departure from the Schengen area. For example, if your BRP is going to expire on October 10, 2022, you need to make sure you leave the Schengen area by July 10, 2022. This detail can sometimes be overlooked, but it's really important to avoid any issues down the line. If you're looking for more detailed information on this, I found some helpful guidance on the University of Brighton's website. They break it down quite clearly, and you can check it out at the link I've provided. Anyway, in my case, it took about a month just to get an appointment for my biometric data collection, so definitely plan ahead for that. In the end, I was still able to get a 3-month Schengen visa, which gave me the flexibility to visit Switzerland and other countries within the Schengen area. It's one of the great things about the Schengen visa, you can explore multiple European countries with just one visa. Even though Switzerland isn't part of the European Union, it follows the Schengen rules because of a special agreement that was signed back in 2004. What this means for you is that if you're planning a trip to Switzerland, whether it's for tourism, business, or visiting family, and you're staying for up to 90 days, you'll likely need a Swiss short-stay visa, which is also called a Swiss Schengen visa. All right, now that we've covered the basics, let's dive into the actual process of applying for your Switzerland Schengen visa. We're going to go through the steps on the official website to make sure you know exactly what to do. Let's start with the second step, since we're skipping the first one. If your plan is to take a short trip to Switzerland, say for up to 90 days, whether you're going for tourism, visiting friends and family, or even for business, you'll need to apply for a short-stay visa. This is what's commonly called a C-type or Schengen visa. Now, let's move on to figuring out where to submit your visa application. This part is all about your place of residence. Depending on where you live, you may need to submit your application directly to the Swiss embassy or consulate, or through authorized visa application centers. To find out where you should apply, check the section titled Finding the Right Submission Location on the website. It's really important to get this right because it affects where you'll need to go for your biometric appointment and where your passport will be sent back. Since I'm based in the UK, I had to submit my application through TLS Contact. They're the authorized visa application center for Switzerland here. You can go through the website to find out if there's a different option for your country. It's all laid out in the Finding the Right Submission Location section. Also, there's some extra information that's super helpful if you're not sure where to apply, especially if there's no Swiss embassy, consulate, or visa application center in your country. You'll find guidance on what to do in that case, along with specific details for countries like Kosovo, Russia, Turkey, Ukraine, and of course, the United Kingdom, where you can submit your Swiss Schengen Visa applications through TLS Contact, just like I did. If Switzerland is the only Schengen area country on your itinerary, then it's pretty straightforward. You just submit your application at the Swiss embassy or consulate, or at the authorized visa application center in your country. But if you're planning to visit Switzerland along with other Schengen countries, things are a bit different. You should apply at the Swiss embassy or consulate, or the VIS, in your country only if you plan to spend more days in Switzerland than in the other Schengen countries. Or if you're spending equal time in each country but starting your journey in Switzerland. To make sure you've got all the details right, the website has a handy guide called How to Choose the Right Embassy, Consulate, Weg to submit the visa application. I definitely recommend checking that out if you're unsure. Now that we've covered the basics, let's dive into the step-by-step process of applying for your Switzerland Schengen Visa. I'm going to walk you through how to use the TLS Contact website to manage your application. This is the site where you'll fill out your application form, schedule your appointment, and get all the information you need. Before we get into the actual application process, the first thing you'll need to do is create an account on the TLS Contact website. This account is where you'll manage everything related to your visa application, from filling out forms to booking appointments. I've already created my account, so I'm going to log in and show you how the process works. But don't worry, it's a straightforward process, and I'll guide you through it step by step. Once you've logged into your TLS Contact account, the first thing you'll need to do is click on Create Application. This will open up the visa application form where you'll be entering all your details. One important tip: make sure to fill out the entire form using capital letters. It's crucial to check every single letter and number thoroughly as you fill out the form, because even a small mistake can affect your application process. Accuracy here is key, so take your time and double-check everything before moving on. Once you've started your application, continue filling in your personal details carefully. This includes basic information like your name, date of birth, and nationality. Make sure all your information matches your official documents exactly. When you reach the field for your national identity number, enter the number from your country's national ID. For example, since I'm from Sri Lanka, I entered my Sri Lankan national identity number in this section. If you're from a different country, you'll need to enter your own country's national ID number here. Next, you'll need to fill in your passport details. This section is crucial, so be sure to have your passport handy as you go through it. You'll be asked for your passport number, the date it was issued, and the expiry date. Make sure you enter these details exactly as they appear on your passport. Any discrepancy here could cause delays in processing your visa. After you've completed your passport details, the next step is to fill in your employer details. This part of the form asks for information about where you work, including the name of your employer, your job title, and the company's address. It's really important to enter this information accurately. If you're not entirely sure about any of the details, take a moment to double-check with your employer before filling it in. The reason this is so crucial is that you'll later need to provide an employer letter as part of your visa application, and the information on that letter needs to match exactly with what you've entered here. After entering your employer details, the next question asks if you reside in a country other than the country of your current nationality. Since I'm living in the UK on a Biometric Residence Permit, or BRP, I marked this as yes. Once you select yes, you'll need to fill in your BRP details. This includes your BRP number and the expiry date. Just like with your passport details, it's important to get this information exactly right. You'll need to enter your email address and mobile number. It's really important to input these details carefully, as they'll be used for all communication regarding your visa application. Double-check your email address to make sure there are no typos. This is where you'll receive updates and any important notifications. The same goes for your mobile number. I made sure to use the UK country code, which is +44, followed by my mobile number without the leading 0. Now we move on to the travel information section. For the main purpose of your trip, I selected tourism, since my primary plan is to visit Switzerland. If you're traveling to multiple countries within the Schengen area, you'll need to add those destinations as well. However, since I'm focusing solely on Switzerland, I only had to enter the details for Switzerland. Next, you'll be asked to fill in the date of arrival in the Schengen area and the leaving date. When filling this out, make sure you have a proper plan for your journey. This is really important when applying for the visa. The dates you enter here should match the travel itinerary and booking confirmations you've prepared as part of your required documents. Whether you're traveling to one or multiple Schengen countries, having a well-organized travel plan will make things much smoother during your visa application process. So, take your time here and ensure everything lines up with your overall itinerary. Next, you'll come to the section for number of entries requested. Here, you have the option to select either a single entry or multiple entries. Since my plan was to visit Switzerland at least once, and because my BRP is set to expire soon, I decided to keep things simple and marked it as single entry. If you're planning more than one trip to the country or multiple Schengen countries, it's best to request multiple entries. This will allow you to enter and leave the Schengen area multiple times without having to reapply for a visa each time. Interestingly, even though I applied for a single entry, my visa was granted for multiple entries anyway. So, it's always worth requesting what fits your situation best, but know that the embassy may issue a different type of visa depending on your overall travel plans. Now, let's move on to selecting your travel host details. This is where you'll add the information about where you're staying during your trip. Since I'm planning to stay at hotels during my visit to Switzerland, I made tentative bookings for several hotels and added all of those details in the form. If you're staying with friends or family, you'd need to enter their information here instead. But in my case, I included the names, addresses, and contact details for each of the hotels where I made reservations. Make sure the details you enter match your booking confirmations exactly. This includes the dates of your stay, the hotel's address, and any contact information. Even if your bookings are tentative, they still need to be accurate for the application. These details should align with the travel itinerary and documents you'll submit later in the process. Next, you'll need to fill in the section on how you're going to cover the cost of your trip. This includes both your travel expenses and the cost of living during your stay. In the form, you'll see a question asking who is covering these costs. For my trip, I selected that I would be covering my own expenses. Then, in the Means of Support section, I added the types of financial resources I'm using. In my case, I listed credit cards and cash as my main sources of funds. The next section is all about your previous Schengen visa history. If you've been issued a Schengen visa in the past, you'll need to add those details here. This includes information about your previous visa, such as the visa sticker number and the date it was issued. You'll also be asked whether your fingerprints were collected within the past 59 months for the purpose of applying for a Schengen visa. If you've had your fingerprints collected for a Schengen visa in the last 59 months, you should select Yes and provide the visa sticker number and the date of issue. Since this is my first time applying for a Schengen visa, I selected No for the question asking. If you're also applying for the first time, you'll want to do the same and just move on to the next section. Now, there's an optional question that asks if you have any relatives who are citizens of the EU, EEA, or Switzerland. If you do, you can select Yes and provide their details, which may affect your application process. But in my case, since I don't have any relatives, I selected No. Before we move on, here's an important tip to keep in mind while filling out your application. The great thing about this system is that you don't have to complete the entire form in one sitting. You can save your application as a draft and come back to it later if you need to make any changes before final submission. If you log out at any point, just log back in. Go to the My Application section, and you'll be able to pick up right where you left off. You can edit any of the details you've already filled in, so don't worry if you need extra time to gather information or review your entries. If you're applying with a partner or other family members, there's an option to add all of their applications to the same application group. Keeping everything organized in one place makes the process much easier. You can either duplicate the same form for each additional member, which saves time if their information is similar to yours, or add a new group member and fill in their details separately. This feature is handy if you're traveling together and want to make sure all the applications are submitted and processed as a group. By adding all the members to the same application group, you ensure that everyone's applications are processed together, making it easier to keep track of everything. This also streamlines things when it comes to scheduling biometric appointments and receiving updates. Once you've completed filling out all the required details, you'll be ready to submit your application. But before you submit, it's important to make sure everything is valid. You'll notice that the system uses color indicators to show if your application is complete. If everything is filled out correctly, the form will be marked in green. However, if there are any missing or incomplete fields, the system will highlight those areas in yellow. In that case, you'll need to go back into the form, review the section with missing information, and fill in all the required fields. Once everything is marked in green, you're good to go. You can then submit your application. Just double-check everything one last time to make sure it's complete and accurate. Submitting a valid form is crucial to avoid any delays in the processing of your visa. Once you've completed all the forms and everything is validated, the next step is to submit the group. At this point, the system will show a warning message letting you know that you won't be able to make any changes to the application after this step. If everything looks good and you're ready to proceed, confirm your submission. After that, you'll be taken to the appointment scheduling section. In this section, you'll see the latest available dates and times for your biometric appointment. You can use the arrows to move forward and browse the calendar for future availability. If the current dates don't suit you, just keep clicking through until you find a time that works for you. Once you've found the right date and time, select it to book your appointment. Remember, appointment availability can fill up quickly, so it's a good idea to schedule as soon as you're ready. After you've picked your appointment date, you'll be directed to the Recommended Services section. Here, you'll have the option to select additional services that may be useful for your application process. You can choose services such as premium processing, SMS notifications, or courier delivery for your passport. You can either select these services online now, or you can decide to add them when you visit the Visa Center on your appointment day. Once you've gone through the Recommended Services section, you'll be directed to the payment page. Here, you'll need to pay the application fee, which is £32 for each application, along with any additional services you may have selected. After entering your payment details and completing the transaction, your appointment will be officially booked. You'll receive a confirmation of your appointment, along with the date, time, and location of your biometric appointment. If you don't pay the temporary appointment service fee, please ensure that you pay the service fee at least 1 hour before your scheduled appointment. Failure to do so will result in your appointment being automatically canceled. To avoid any inconvenience, make sure to complete the payment within the specified time frame. Thank you for watching. In our next video, we'll be diving deeper into the essential documents you'll need for your appointment, how to schedule your appointment seamlessly, and sharing some valuable tips to ensure a smooth process. Don't miss out. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're updated as soon as it's live. See you in the next video.